Hello and welcome to another episode of the Our Foundations podcast. My name is Joshua. I am your host, and today's episode will be continuing on with presentations from Agora Fest 2023. You will probably be very happy to hear that this is the final presentation with very bad audio. So the first few, like I've mentioned in the past and apologized for profusely, I believe, they just have not had very good quality. We had a lot of audio issues and it just didn't really work out well. Now, this one is a catch-22 situation because the first 7 minutes, roughly, of the presentation is even worse quality than the past two presentations, but after the 7-minute mark, it's actually fairly decent. So, if it is so bad that you just can't do it, skip ahead 7 minutes, or 6.5 maybe by the time you realize that you can't take it anymore, and you should be good to go from there. Now, this presentation is a little bit special because it is from a Mennonite speaker. There is a Mennonite community that we have some connections with through the Agora that I helped to run, and a few other people are friends and friends of friends, that kind of thing, that know this particular man, Kenton, and the other folks in this community. And it's a decent-sized community, and Kenton has a store that he runs there. It is set up as a PMA, a private membership association, which is really interesting. He also does pasture-raised, grass-fed cows and pigs and other meat that he has there at his store. He can do raw milk and things of that nature. So there are a lot of connections there that are in line with things that we like at the Agora that we have discussed here on this podcast in particular. And so I thought it would be a very good one to add to the list here, not to mention the fact that he is a Mennonite. And so he has a very interesting perspective and one that I think is definitely worth hearing and listening to. And so I wanted to make sure that we got this, even though, again, the audio is pretty bad. So if it were anything else, just a random presentation I got a hold of or was a part of, I would probably not air this on the podcast. But since it is in the lineup for Agora Fest 2023, but also since it is Kenton and he is a Mennonite, you're not really going to get a chance to hear him or many other Mennonites, for that matter, at all. That's just not something they really do. This is fairly special, and I want to make sure that you have a chance to hear it if you're interested. Again, the next few are pretty decent, if not good audio, and so that should be much better for everybody. The next presentation will be from a lady named Louise, and that'll be on self-sufficiency and homesteading and these kinds of things, sustainability. And then the next one will be Lady Michelle Renaud, who is with the Weston A. Price Foundation, among many other things. She's into lots of natural health, things like homeopathy and that type of thing, and she gets into a lot of stuff related to that and diet and these kinds of things, raw foods, and just all kinds of super interesting stuff. Hers is really good. And then the final one is extremely good as well, and that one is also oriented towards natural health and just various aspects of toxicity and detox, as well as various ways that the body responds to and holds on to sickness and trauma and these types of things. And that one was, again, also really good. So you've got some really good ones coming up over the next few episodes, and also the audio is really good for those as well. So hang in there. If you haven't been able to take it, then I do apologize. But again, I felt like it was worth getting these out there for those that are interested and willing to go through it, and we will get away from the poor audio quality after this episode here, and we'll get into some good ones for the following three, and those will be the last ones, and then we'll get back into the regularly scheduled programming for Season 5.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. In our native tongue, we would say good morning. Who knows what that language is? Greg, you know? Dr. German. Some of you might say buenos dias. It doesn't matter how we say it. In my conviction, we can't say the word without saying God is good. God is good all the time. The sun rises in the morning, I have to think of verse lamentation that says, mercy renewed. So this morning after that, I arrived here, I went down to the river and it was rock out, cruised out. And just a short distance ahead of me was a red boat with two old men fishing. And some of you may have heard how these two men were out fishing. And it was an extremely good fishing spot. And so the one said to the other, did you mark the spot? And he said, well, yes, I put an X on the side of the boat. And the other said, well, you idiot, what if we take a different boat out? My name's Kenton. We live on the Humboldt Plateau. If you draw a straight line from Chattanooga from Chattanooga up to Cookville, we fall exactly halfway between us and 5 miles from where Bradley lives. And our family operates the old Bell Lab General Store. We do have a private membership association where we market quite a bit of beef, pork, chicken that is grown in our church community there. We do a lot of processing on site there for that, most of it in fact, and we market this meat out of the store. We also put all of the pork, beef, chicken that is grown there and put it on the menu and serve breakfast and lunch there at our store. So you have come to our store, you'll have to see more. So I was asked to talk on living naturally, living outside of the system. In thinking of this, I have to think that life is not fair. In a very real way, we probably have an advantage here because we were born, I was born into a culture outside the system. In our church community there, we have 80-some households living together in community, and all of them would somewhat dress like I do, more or less believe like I do, and very much live like we do in our house. So we do operate outside of the system. Probably not so much from a mindset, but from a conviction. It is a conviction that we are to be separate from the world, based on many scriptures, the primary one maybe being Romans 1, where it said, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed in the renewing of your mind. So we have the conviction of living separate from the world and its system. So I do not know anything about insurance. We have absolutely no insurance. I have an 8th grade education. Our 10 children all had an 8th grade education, nothing more, nothing less. We do not take our elderly to the nursing home. We take care of our own at all times. We believe that to be the biblical model. We do not use welfare or Social Security payments in any way. We pay into the system. We do not collect from the system. So right now, at this time of the year, this spring, we're reliving a year ago when my wife and I spent more than a month total days up in Indiana, northern Indiana, caring for my father, who was afflicted with Parkinson's many years ago, and it got to the point where it got him down. He had several afflictions that got him down, to us. They came and brought 5-gallon buckets of strawberries, helped our daughter do these and freeze them, can them and stuff. And so that may give you an idea how we have our mutual assistance program. It's a conviction we have. We're here for the other people. In the last 2 months, in this general store that we added a hardware division. There was a hardware store in our church community just down the road for 10 years. That family wanted to do other things in life and wanted to sell the store, so it was in danger of disappearing. So now the hardware store was in danger of disappearing, and we purchased this store, but it was a massive amount of work to get this done. And I just called on our church community, and for a period of over a month, I had brothers stop in and say, "Do you have enough help? I will come twice this week. I will send my sons later in the week." And that for that month that we had this hardware store moving, going on, I had all the help that I needed and more, because we have this conviction to help each other. So I will start going through this list that Joshua gave to me. Why live outside the mainstream culture? Let me back up. He said, he's asked a little further up here, he said that I am supposed to speak living outside the system, living naturally. And I decided to reword this a little. I like things that are short and sweet. So I decided to reword this to living in a world that or surviving a world gone berserk. Surviving a world gone berserk. And so maybe that'll be the theme going through this. Why live outside the mainstream culture? I think those questions have all been answered this morning already. We're living in a world gone berserk. And so we need to find ways to survive outside of this mainstream culture. I've touched some of them already. We grow our food naturally. All our meat is raised outdoors in the sunshine and on green grass. Every animal that we process there, I'm not saying it never saw concrete under its feet. Maybe some of them did for a brief moment here and there, but they spend 99% of their time out on green grass, where God intended them to be, where they thrive and they're happy and they're healthy. So that is a conviction that we have, that is the way that our food should be raised. Why live outside the mainstream culture? It's not working. We heard that already. Everybody raised their hand. It's going downhill. It's misguided. It's misfocused. There's no definite vision of anything that's sustainable. So I think those questions have been answered. Why we live outside the mainstream culture. Education. I mentioned that we only do the 8th grade education, and I'm okay with learning. I love to learn. I love to find out why things operate the way they do, why things don't work when they're supposed to work, but we look at our 8th grade education as a way to learn how to learn. We would be fairly eminently opposed to anything more than that, because we feel that is enough for how we choose to live, to learn the basics. And it's basically we are teaching our children how to learn, and then we learn the rest of our life. Off-grid living. We as a church community choose to not live inside the grid. We are off-grid, so many, if not all of us, have solar systems to some extent. We use battery lights run off of solar systems to light our houses. No switches on the wall at our house. Everything is battery. Raising your own food. We definitely, every house in our church community would have a garden. We would raise our own food. Not everybody in our church community would be totally organic, but most are. We endorse the system of raising food where we don't have to be dumping 7 onto everything. Crop rotation is a big thing to avoid the pests that want to eat our berries and such. There's other things we can do. We can release beneficial insects that ward off these pests that want to attack our food. Most of the people in our church community would do their own butchering. We do meat processing at our house for the meat that we sell at the store. I rarely, if ever, process meat for our own church people. Everybody does this for themselves, for the most part. Structuring your business. We do have this legal PMA. I have a copy of that. If anybody wants to read it, I will share that with you. This PMA that I got an attorney to draw up when we started this venture to sell meat 4 years ago there. What does it mean to live naturally to you? I pondered on this question, and it goes deep, but the first thing that comes to my mind is to live at peace, to just be at peace with our Maker and fellow man. If we harbor grudges and hate to anyone, it is going to hamper our well-being. That is a fact that we cannot get around. We need to live at peace. And to me, it means not going to the doctor, believe it or not. It has been probably 20 plus years that I have been to a medical doctor. And I don't know what it would take to get me back there. Probably if I suffered trauma, got hit on the road or something, I would let them take me and operate or do what's needed. But to go to the doctor if I felt something arising in my abdomen, I don't think I would do. What is real food and how should it be raised and processed? I talked about that a lot already, but real food is food that is real fuel for our bodies. And we were made out of the dust of the earth, as we read in Genesis 3. And real food sustains our bodies and fuels our bodies as our Creator intended. It is interesting to me that if a scientist takes his microscope and observes how the microbial activity in the human gut works, it is much the same way as the microbial activity in a living soil will work. And there's a reason for that. We were made from the dust of the earth. And so real food grown in real soil, fueling real bodies is the way that it should be. This is a conviction that I have and have had for many years. I will not go into a lot of detail, but this journey of mine that I'm still on health and healthy living and raising food organically and providing this for other people started more than 20 years ago with sickness that I couldn't explain. Went to the doctor, he couldn't explain it, but he gave me some magic pills that were supposed to fix this. And then I had side effects from that were anything but desirable. So I went back to him, and he gave me other pills that created other side effects. And this was a cycle that went on for a year there. And finally, I told him that I am reading about health and nutrition in a natural way, and I'm choosing that route. And he told me, well, good luck. You won't have any luck with that at all. And so I went on a series of fasts. I went on, I just totally changed diet and the way I ate, the way I thought about eating, the way I thought about living in general. And 6 months after that, I would have liked to bounce into his office and tell him, that doctor, that I didn't know that a person could feel as well as I'm feeling today. And but I knew that I probably could not do that in a humble way, so I never did it. So here's the big one. It's the last one on the list. How do you approach health and medicine? Based on what I just shared with you, we have in our house a library that would fill a section of wall like that, and most of them are books on human health and diet and nutrition. And so I still have much to learn in this, but I have learned a lot, and I would just like to share some of what I've learned. Like I said, I don't know what it would take to get me back to a doctor. I would just like to share some experiences that we had. About 5 years after I got on this organic bandwagon, we were living in central Michigan at that time, and I had some cows get out on alfalfa that had been subjected to frost. This was in late September, and unknown to me, this created bloating, and so we lost 3 cows that morning, and I was determined to save some of these at least. I think we salvaged 2 of them as far as getting butchered. But being in a hurry on a warm summer morning, I cut myself. Cut my finger a little bit. And of course I was in these animals, and I got, apparently I got some bad bugs into this. And 2 days later, I noticed this finger was about 3 times as big as it should have been, and it was hurting. Left around noon that day to go short runs, and by the time I came back, I realized I was sick. I had red streaks going up my arm about the elbow. And so I knew if that went too far, I'd like to be over. But I was too stubborn to go to the doctor, so I went out in the backyard and I gathered plantain. I gathered burdock leaves. There was a few other things that I gathered, but I took these leaves inside, took a hammer, crushed the leaves, got them all all crushed, put them in hot boiling water, got this potion hot, let it cool down, and I spent, by then the red streaks were almost up to the shoulder. So I had my ice water, I had this hot potion of herb water, and I just forced myself to keep my finger in there, plunged it into the ice, back and forth. And then I watched those red streaks recede, and all that, the E. coli, whatever it was, actually the skin kind of opened up on that finger. It was so swollen, and those toxins were pulled out of that open skin, not just the little cut, but the entire finger. And the finger swelling itself didn't go down 100% that hour I was doing that, but I was no longer a sick man. I could have chosen to go to the emergency room and go through the antibiotic regime, whatever they would have done to me there. I chose not to. I chose to do it naturally. We have had instances in our family where we've had trauma. We had 2 children that fell. We were glad for the medical society. We took our children by ambulance in the hospital, and the appropriate measures were taken, surgery, whatever, to fix this. We are glad for that provision. But there is something inherently wrong with the way medicine is approaching human health. I have read that in some of the Oriental countries, the doctor gets paid to keep you healthy. And if the doctor ceases to do that, he is no longer doing his job, and he ceases to be paid. Now, wouldn't that be a better approach? I mentioned fasting. To me, fasting is a very, very important part to staying healthy. To me, no fiscal year should go around that I have not done at least one 10-day fast, total abstinence from all food for 10 whole days. I have gone as long as 18 days without food. I am a busy man. I think I have to keep working. So my fasts actually give me more energy, believe it or not, for the first week or so. That 18-day one went the other way. At the end of 18 days, I was dragging my tail. But at least a 10-day fast once a year, and ideally at least a 3-day fast once a month. That is the best way to detox and stay healthy that I have found. If I feel something not right in my digestive, whatever it may be, it's time for fast. If my knees are hurting, it's time for fast. I let my body heal when I abstain from food. Deep breathing. Deep breathing is another thing. I was busy this morning. I was up before 4 o'clock making breakfast for the ones that are for the store, so the ones taking care of the store did not have to make my biscuits and gravy this morning. I didn't get my deep breathing done this morning like I wanted to. So I went down to the river this morning. As soon as we arrived, I stood on that rock and I just did my deep breathing, just deep as you can, and exhale as deep as you can. Imperative to get the oxygen levels up in your blood. And just too many of us go through our day in a rush and a hustle, and we don't breathe deeply. We just breathe shallowly in the busyness of life. We need to stop and breathe deeply and reflect on God's goodness. So there are many other things that we can talk about here, but I would just like to encourage all of you to reflect on the goodness of God, to get out and grow your own business. Just get out and work in the dirt and get a few chickens. There's a lot of people doing that nowadays. Get a few chickens. Children need chores. And I just am here to encourage you to do that. I tell people I'm on the warpath to help people, encourage people to live self-reliant and to grow their own food. We do offer pork classes and chicken classes at our place there a couple times a year. There's only so many people that we can take at a time, but when we do processing, there's people that like to come, and Timmy and his family has been there for that. So if that's something you're interested in, you can ask when we're doing that again. We would like to, people ask us if we teach canning classes. We would love to. My wife has helped a lot of people. Even though I have our church community working together to grow the food, I haven't gotten anybody convinced in helping to do more of these classes, so I'm a little bit limited on that. But, I think of the little boy that went out on the seashore and was throwing the starfish that were washed up from the tide back into the water. And the old grandpa said, "Son, you can't save all those." And he said, he threw another one in and said, "But I made a difference for that one." And no, I cannot help the entire world, but hopefully I can help someone, make a difference in someone's life. And that's just my heart. And I think some of you have come to our store, a lot of you have. And I always hated when friends come in and I have a line that reaches from here to there, people waiting on a sandwich, and I don't have time to talk with my customers. So I beg your pardon, and I ask you to come later at a time when I'm not so busy. So we do have a chance to talk and connect. I am going to, I know that my time today may not be 100% up, but I'm going to leave off. We are a little running behind today anyways. I'm going to leave off with one more thought. I've got one more take-home message for you. And that is, I have been talking here, and we've all been talking about living in a world on reserve, living outside the mainstream culture and surviving this. And the thing that I'm going to leave you with today is that we will not survive this reserved world. There is a better world awaiting, and we have to uniquely accept the salvation offered from Jesus Christ. God has a GPS plan for us, God's plan of salvation, and we need to accept that and make it our own, make it our personal choice to follow Christ in our everyday life. And the benefits of doing this are eternal, and the retirement plan is always good.
So that was the talk by Kenton Martin from Agora Fest 2023. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, I apologize for the audio quality. I cleaned it up as best as I could, and it is much, 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 much better, infinitely better than it was. So hopefully it was good enough for you guys to be able to enjoy it and understand everything. Again, the next 3 presentations, which will be the last 3 presentations from Agora Fest 2023, are much better quality in the audio realm. So, with that, I want to say thank you very much for all of your support. Thank you for listeners that are listening. Thank you for ratings and reviews, anybody that has been willing to take the time to put those out there. And thank you very much for the supporters that support financially through Patreon mostly, but also Subscribestar. If you are interested in supporting the show financially, there are some perks for doing so, and that would be very appreciated. So thank you very much for all of your support of all kinds. I'm out. Until next time, peace.
This has been our Foundations podcast. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.